Welcome back to Bull Sessions here on 680 KFEQ. You can email your questions or comments to bull@willcross.net. Once again, here's Randy Baker and agronomist Brad Law.
Okay, we're back from that commercial break. Frank's on the phone. We're going to get him here in just a little bit. We're going to get him on here. Did you finish up this brilliant, intelligent list?
And one thing I was just thinking about, 2% of our population being farmers gave us $133.1 billion worth of agricultural products that were exported.
Mind-boggling.
I mean, that's pretty neat.
It is.
That's something that the American farmers should be proud of.
It is, and I think they are. I just don't think they're recognized enough.
Well, it goes back to that only getting 16 cents out of every dollar.
It's pathetic. It's pathetic, and that needs to change. Hopefully, we got a new president. As of right now, they're still playing with the new Secretary of Agriculture on deciding on who's going to happen. So it is what it is. But
all right.
As long we know one thing we can count on our American farmers.
Yes.
They will go to work and they will produce.
Well, and we're going to try to get our American farmers some more moolah in their pocket, or maybe keep their moolah, get more moolah, or make a better decision. And maybe we can get Frank on here if Miles has got him.
We got Frank.
Hello.
There we do.
Hi, Frank.
Yep.
How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you guys?
We're awesome. We're awesome in the new year. We've been talking about, guess what, farming.
Yep.
You know a little something about that.
Well, I don't know about the farm side, but I definitely know about the price action side. That's
Frank is Frank LaPlaca from Chicago, Illinois. He's a commodities broker out there. He's been on the show before. We wanted to bring him back. We're in a new year. We want to kind of see what Frank's thoughts are for all of our listeners on moving forward.
Well, and every week, Frank, I like to dig at Randy some way, somehow.
You're kind of pathetic also, Bradley.
Well, it's kind of my New Year's resolution is to make sure I get those digs in before the second segment's over.
You have 51 more weeks to do so, or 2 or 3.
Well,
however many I'm going to tolerate.
Well, one thing, Randy messed up, and I like to point out whenever Randy messes up because it doesn't always happen very often, but when it does, I like to bask in it. Randy had some beans, and he sold them right at harvest, and he got 1 penny less than $9 for them on the cash market. And I was like, oh, did you talk to Frank, and what options and stuff did you do? Because their Thanksgiving, they went up and our cash beans hit 10.06, and somebody in this room, between the two of us, and it wasn't Randy, sold some then. And he even screwed up because he didn't take any protection, and then the market went down. But, what could Randy have done? I think we talked about this a little bit last time, and it didn't sink in for Randy, so I felt like we needed to cover it again.
Well, the easiest thing to do was to buy calls against those sales, and at least then have that coverage on making any sale. You can make it a little more confident. So the way I always look at buying calls against a sale is you're spending pennies to make dollars. You've already rung the cash register on your production, and now you're giving yourself a little more upside. You're paying yourself, but you're staying long on paper. And, the board is a very cost-efficient way to maintain your market exposure. Because if you think about it, if you sold $8.99 beans and then you spent, 20 cents of that on a call, let's say, or if you did a call spread and you spent, 10 cents, however it might be, at expiration, that 20 cent 10-cent investment could have turned into $1, or in this case, I mean,
it was $1.07.
If you would have, depending on what your basis was at the time, I mean, yeah, at $8.99, we rallied about 70 cents from there. So there was definitely some opportunity at that time to take advantage of quite a nice rally that we got. And, in the big picture, if you had held on too long, yeah, maybe some of that would have came out, but you at least were giving yourself a chance.
Mm-hmm. Right.
With that extra $1, Randy, if you would have had that extra $1, just think of what you could have spent on Grammy. You could have bought her flowers. You could have bought her maybe part of a Ranger.
Well, you bought her the flowers.
Yeah.
You bought her some flowers a while back. Thank you for that, Bradley. I took credit for it, too.
Oh.
Frank, he's having a lot of fun at my expense.
Well, but it's a real life experience that here is something
and a lot of us do that.
I'm kicking myself because I only sold a portion of my production when it hit that because I thought it's going to 10.5, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, you bet.
And it didn't, So I messed up and I didn't protect my unpriced bushels at that point. And now I'm kicking myself, I should have called Frank and said, okay, if I do this, what should I, what is something, where can I spend a few pennies to maybe protect some dollars?
Right. And, that's so my hedging philosophy, it's a little different than some other, other companies who they try to use a hammer with for every problem. When you have your old crop and you know how many bushels you have to protect, that's when I think futures are the right path, because you want to make that sale as close as you can to using the elevator. You want to lock in that price. When you're doing new crop, you want to use puts because you don't know what your production is going to be. Maybe you don't even know what your rotation is yet. But you saw that $10 plus new crop price, and you thought, okay, I can take advantage of that, and if I have to, I can take my position off at some point. But if you're going to go old crop, I would say you use futures because you're probably going to make a cash sale at some point. If you're deciding, okay, I need to hedge my old crop, there's a cash sale coming soon enough. So that's what I would have recommended is a futures contract on the old crop. On any new crop, though, if you wanted to take advantage of those prices that were like we saw, $10 plus new crop beans, that's when you want to use the options market because, like I said, the seed isn't even in the ground yet, so it's hard to want to margin a position up for something that you might not even plant beans next year. Let's say, corn has a sharp rally from here and beans kind of fall out of bed. Maybe you decide, hey, I'm going to plant corn since everyone else is planting beans, and then you can just buy back that put and no harm, no foul.
Mm-hmm. You make that sound so easy, Frank.
Well, that's my job is to make it as easy and emotion-free as I can. I know you guys are the ones carrying the emotion and the burden of these decisions, and it's my job to try to look as middle of the road, just what seems like the easiest decision.
Yeah, and how we could have done it better.
And I like playing that Monday morning quarterback on Randy because it was a perfect opportunity. And usually when I have a failure or something like that, then I learn better from it. I got to pay that tuition. And I know a lot of farmers, they kick themselves when they do something and it could have went, the opposite way. The market could have fell. But, we got to have that happy price. And I was happy with mine, and it was better than Randy's, so I have to dwell on that.
And he was real happy. Yeah.
Well, I don't think, I think both, if I was going to look into next year, I think, you're going to have some downside here in the soybeans in the next few months. I think that, from who guys I'm talking to, Bankers a little nervous about financing corn inputs at these price levels. And the soybeans probably now have to weaken a little bit in order to balance out that corn-soybean ratio to not end up with 88 million acres like some of the private estimates are. So I think, right now, although it looks like we just had this, dramatic break, I still think there could be a little more downside here. And at some point I would be looking to take these positions off, but I think you're going to look back maybe a month from now and say, wow, those sales I made actually look really good versus, if I was holding them.
Are you listening, Bradley?
I know.
So you can gloat?
Well, those sales, but I'm thinking about those bushels I sold. I didn't forgot about those. Now I've got the ones still in the bin that I'm thinking.
Your word's sick.
I know. Now I'm like, man, I should have sold those back in November.
But you didn't, so you can't look back. You got to look ahead.
I'm like that Yosemite Sam now, sitting here cussing under my breath.
Don't cuss. We don't allow that. You just should have called Frank.
I know.
Well, he can tell you what to do now.
Yeah.
Well, if I was going to, right now, looking at the chart, we're kind of in a pattern that, as much as I don't want to get too deep into the technical side of it, but the trend is down. We made new lows for the move. You could argue that if we get below 983 3/4, that really kind of opens the levy up to the downside, and you might have 957 as 983 3/4, and then 957 would be the next two levels.
Frank, I got to hold you up, buddy. We still have to take commercials here, but hang on. We're going to come right back. We'll have more of Bull Sessions and more of Frank when we come back on 680 KFEQ.